So if you're like me and you like putting your own stuff together, or you like working on your own vehicle, sometimes you might have run into the metric system. So I want to add this little video about metric. If you want to just skip ahead to the Skybird part of the video, I'll put the timestamp in right there, and you can just fast forward past this part to that. So let's get started. So when it comes to fasteners and metric, sometimes you can swap back and forth between standard and metric and they'll fit, sometimes not. So these are the ones that are pretty close to each other. You got 13/16 and 21, 3/4 and 19, 11/16 and 17, 5/8 and 16, 9/16 with 14, 1/2 inch with 13, 7/16 with 11 mil, 5/16 with 8 mil, then 9/32 with 7 millimeter. Now I don't think they even make a 9/32 wrench. That's usually, I found, if you're under a dash of a car, those really small ones are usually 9/32. So like I said, sometimes you can swap these back and forth. If you find one that doesn't fit either one of them, standard or metric, well, that's why they made vice grips. Now if you do run into a fastener that doesn't fit into one of those ones, before you grab your vice grips, there are some metric that only fit metric. And that's the 18 millimeter, which is pretty common, the 15 millimeter, which is pretty common. Now there's a 12 millimeter, and that's not very common. A 10 millimeter, that's really common. And a 9 millimeter, that's not very common. So if you happen to skip that front part, the only thing I was saying is that sometimes you can swap between standard and metric wrenches and sockets. In this case, these all worked on both. So what they give you is this here. They call it a wrench. I call it scrap steel. What wrenches are you going to need, or sockets? 3/4 or 19 millimeter. 11/16 or 17 mil. 1/2 inch or 13 mil. 5/16 or 8 mil. And mine had 10 millimeters. Now 10 millimeters only fits 10 mil. Instructions. They are, as you might expect, pretty useless. You know, there's good pictures. You can kind of just figure out how it goes. Over here, you might notice I have some extra parts. Now those are this here, which keeps stupid people from putting their arm in there. I didn't want to put it on, and there's no reason you have to put it on, so tubes can go in the garbage. And this stuff, which also includes, I didn't put the leg on. You might want to put that on or not. I'm going to mount this a little differently, so I didn't put it on there, but this stuff here is just your brackets for that tube with all the warnings, you know, keep clear. I mean, scrap steel bin. Okay, this is the mount. It's nice and solid for if you want to put it on a 4x4 post. They give you these, which is why I got some spare parts. You put that on there, you're going to post and clamp her shut. That's supposed to hold it in there. Yeah, it's nice, well constructed, nice welded, pretty sturdy. I thought I was going to use this, so I'm going to think of something a little bit different. So that's nice. Might keep that around. Like I said, the leg, I'm not putting it on in the ground. So now let's look at the trap itself. Okay, so I'm going to start with the back and move my way forward. Already starting off, I probably already voided the warranty by drilling holes in the back of it. This is actually your foot pedal. That's just a hinge with no bolt holes. Usually goes up here, so you can step on it to release it with this chain. I moved it back here because I'm going to use this as my release system when I get it hooked up. So yeah, that goes there, and you just kind of step on it with this chain. One thing, they give you these two springs that are hooked onto this, which flips your trigger back on. They didn't say anything in there on the manual about it, because you have to put this on if you want to use that foot pedal, which is just an eyelet hook with a piece of dog chain and a keychain hooks to that. Kind of chintzy, but you just screw that into one of these holes back there. And I put both springs on that just to hold it. Started at the bottom there. It's nice and thick, which I like. Nice welding on it. This has got these notches so you can turn it and it locks down solid. I would really recommend anti-seizing that one and this one here. This one here actually screws into this back piece. Now, if you don't have any anti-seize, I would recommend getting some. Here's a container, what it kind of looks like. There's different sizes. This is a big size because I use this stuff all the time, especially if you work on vehicles. I mean, if you break down and got to change your tire, you're going to be glad to have an anti-seize instead of snapping wheel studs in the middle of nowhere. And even the AAA guy, he'll probably be pissed off because his hands, that stuff gets on everything. But I mean, at least you get the nuts off. I also put some on the adjuster here. And so that's fine. I'll lay it down here. Oops, grease is rolling away. Another thing I did, speaking of grease, is this here is what the spring pivot's on. It's just a piece of metal. It's a stud, and a cotter pin holds it, and a washer, and it just spins on that. Now there's a nylon bushing in there, but I took this off and put some grease on that. This is nice, in case that starts to seize up. You can pull this, pull it apart, and re-grease it. What I don't like is there's no way to grease the actual arm itself. This is all one solid piece, and I'll flip it up here. This is what catches it, so you got the 3/4 cock. It's just a latch here with a spring. It's welded solid. There's imagine a shaft that goes all the way through here that this top plate bolts onto. The problem is that's how the arm actually it pivots on. Now I'm sure there's some kind of nylon washer or bushing in there, but I would have liked a zern fitting right there. Those are the ones that you got on your ball joints and whatnot to grease that. Now I took a small paintbrush and kind of jammed as much grease down there as I could. My other one I did is it kind of seized up on me. I drilled a hole and just used that as an oil insert because it's too thin to drill and tap it, and then you can't really get it out because they welded it solid. That's one thing I don't like. Other than that, it seems to be alright. It's nice thick construction. Nice heavy duty base. Yeah, so overall pretty impressive. Now I'm going to take it out. It's been raining here. Hopefully I can find a kind of dry spot out in the yard, out in the field, to see how far this thing will actually throw. Right now on level ground I got it set to 30 degrees. That might change depending on how I set it, but 30 degrees is roughly where the ATA set their traps at. So we'll see how far I can fling them out there with this spring cranked down as far as it'll go. So there's the thrower all set up. I just got some cement blocks to hold her down. Hopefully you can hear me. I'm going to show you the handy dandy wind meter here, and it's blowing pretty good. And as you can see, it's a wet, sloppy mess. So I'm just going to throw a few out here. I got my rangefinder to see how far they are. Just going to throw a few out and get the average. And it's windy. Okay, so I let one rip just to see what it does. I'm going to see if I can get it on camera here. Man, is it windy, but let's see if you can see it coming flying out of there. I don't fall over here, trying to hold up an umbrella and the camera and everything else. There she goes. Got a splash in the water, that's where she's landing. So I'm going to launch a few more out there, then I'll get the average. I don't know how well it's going to work, but that's where the trap is. Now if we go out, I'll have to zoom in. Can't really zoom in too much, but it's an arrow with a tennis ball sticking on it, and that, according to my rangefinder here, so I'll show it to you, is 69 yards. This thing has a plus or minus of 1 yard. Bought this as another Canadian Tire purchase. It went on sale for $100, and I paid about 65 of it with Canadian Tire money. So was a nice deal. It's throwing them out there pretty good. I got that spring there cranked as far as it can go. They kind of ground and flatten the bolt, so you can only turn the nut in so much. With that cocking mechanism, man, that's really nice. Even though it's kind of wobbly on those stones there, once you get past a certain point, the spring will pull it right against the trigger there, and it's perfect. And when it releases, it goes back to that position there. So that's it. You know, that's pretty good. You know, 69, 70 yards. Well, that's all I got. I'm going to go back in because I can see some more rain clouds coming. You can see it's a nice overcast, crappy day. So I'd like to thank you all for watching, and we'll see you on the flip side.